trying to straighten this out. Okay, can you see? Can you see? Okay, trying to get this right. Good afternoon, my brothers and sisters. Just coming to you right quick for something that I want to share. That I hope is that will be a blessing to you. I'm struggling fighting with this, so I hope they'll get it right. Okay. Let's see if that do it. Okay, that should be better. All right. Anyway, today as I got up, I do what I always do. I seek the Lord. Ask Him for His guidance. Read my scriptures and whatnot. But for the last 3-4 days now, since that happened with Dr. Martin Luther King, I just been kind of focus in on him, the speech and other things that connect to it. And I've been finding a whole lot in it, in the speech, the day, the time, all kinds of stuff. So I just, got up this morning, read my scripture and thanking God. Today is 4/7/2018. And I'm just going to read what I started off writing as I was trying to pull myself together. First of all, I got up, like I said, I wrote right here. I said, what's the chance that I would wake up and 7 to 10 minutes later, it would come to me that Judas is busy? And then listen to a sermon Bishop T.D. Jakes preached, and he speak on bitterness, envy, jealousy, and the spirit of Judas. What's the chance of this, y'all? For the last 3 to 5 years, God has been speaking to me about bitterness and many people, especially in leadership. Now, this has been a continuous thing with me. And this the spirit of bitterness, and coveting and so forth and so on. But anyway, make a long story short, I got to sitting down and I just was writing, and because different things was coming to me, emotions was into play too. So I don't want to make no excuse in that area, And I know when you're doing something like this, you got to learn to step away from your emotions so you can hear what God is saying, Anyway, I wrote this. I see how you can do me. I see how you do me. Forgive me. So I understand why they do what they do. It's not right what they do, but cold hearts sometimes reach cold hearts. And I wrote that, and I went on. I say, so the question that I ask, do we let our hearts reflect their hearts? Or do we yield our hearts to Father Abba? For Dr. Martin Luther King made it clear in 10 verses or 10 paragraphs. Last part, he said, I see God working in this period of the 20th century in a way that men, in a great way in men. What he was saying, I see God working in the 20th century in a great way in men. Okay. In some strange way are responding. In some strange way, the response to this was great. Was what I was picking up. Okay, but Martin Luther King was basically saying that he see God working in the 20th century in a big way in men. Okay, so I got to realize when I do the whole thing, I got to do it, rewrite it over. Anyway, as I reflected on this, the the question came up, what do you see? And this is something that used to come to me all the time back when I was down in the pit, you know. And this would really inspired me to start seeking God even more, because it used to come to me so much. What do you see? And it came to me today. You know, are your eyes open or are they shut? Okay. A nation of people crying out because they don't understand the promised land right here on earth for them for right now. Eyes open, but yet eyes shut. What's the answer? My soul cries. As the answer cries out at me from eternity. I have a dream. I've been to the mountain top. Free at last comes to me. Not understanding why. I know the mind is a very delicate and precious gift given to us from eternity. The mind is eternal, part of the soul. So it can go places we think if we have the will to believe. I hear the voice saying the mind and will are one and the same. So I say, let our will and mind do this thing that was spoken so long ago, that speaks to this very day. I have a dream. I've been to the mountaintop. He said, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I hear you speaking, prophet. What else did the prophet of God say to us in this? Let's see. So, that's what I wrote as I was, taking and going over different things and researching that. So the last part is I stopped when I said, let's see. Now, in here, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to come back to this later. But in here, I found where this was Dr. Martin Luther King that was said back then, 50 years later, is relating to things that go on right now. I also found in here the number 21, the number 11, the number 8, all the numbers that I found, and that what I did with Mount Zion 11, Mount Zion 21, that leads to Mount Moriah 23. I found this in this with Dr. Martin Luther King too. Forgive me, Lord, because your servant was a powerful and mighty man. I found these numbers in this too. Okay? So I said at the end of that, let's see what else is in here. So I know the right thing for me to do was to go to the Lord in prayer. So, I went to God in prayer. Help me, Lord. Went to God in prayer. I went to God in prayer, and this started to come to me. Okay. I wrote right here. I start right here. I will start with saying this. Javortian John. The last thing that came to me. Okay, I'm gonna start by saying this. Something tried to cut me off. I'm gonna start by saying this again. I will start with saying this. The last thing that came to me while I was praying was, why do so many have my name on their lips, but they are so far away from me? That was the last thing that come to me in this prayer. Now here go the other stuff that come to me as I was praying, seeking God for more answers to this with Dr. Martin Luther King, wanting his guidance. As I started out this prayer, I thank Father Abba and his son Jesus for coming in the flesh and for shedding his precious blood for me. I talked to him about us as people and needing his help. I talked to him about things that I hated and the help that I needed and we needed as people because family wasn't family anymore. And the love was really missing within the family. I talked to Father Abba about what I read and heard on Facebook, how different family members would treat others in family badly or wrongfully, or how they would embrace another one more than the other. I told Father Abba that I hear his messenger, Martin Luther King, speaking from eternity, or him still speaking to us, and that we have missed the mark. And how can one generation after Dr. Martin Luther King, one generation away from him, which would be my generation, lose all that was there for us? I let him know I was guilty too of this. I asked him, how can we be so lost to our history? The young brothers wear their pants sagging, not really realizing that this means a booty call in jail, or really realizing that it's deeper than that. It goes all the way back to slavery, when the slave master would take the strings out of the slaves' pants, so they would have to use one hand to hold their pants up while they held up one finger and bowed their heads to the slave master in submission. I asked him, how could we miss it on how a woman was told to go out back or upstairs so the slave master could have their way with them. Speaking of the sisters, which all of them is the sisters, but I'm speaking of women of African descent. I asked him, why are we treating our women like that now? How can we be so lost after a message like the one Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. preached back then? Father Abba, know it's not a race thing with me. Because there is only one race, and I have African, European, and Indian in me. So to hate either would be to hate myself. But I can't deny one part of me that hurts, that African man. Anyway, as I continue to pray, I started to speak in a tongue that I have heard before, a strong, warlike tongue. Even in the words as I spoke it, the words was even, they was precise. It wasn't no nonsense, real even. I then received a few names of people that's not here anymore. After this, I seen a white mist come up from what seems to be the earth. It got bigger and bigger. It turned into a big white cloud that released a even bigger white vortex. After this, it turned completely gray. I then seen puffed out a man, and I then seen puffed. It was like the cloud puffed out is what I'm trying to say. It's like the cloud got real big, and out of it, a man came out a man came out of it riding on a gold chariot. I then started to say Pharaoh is riding in his gold chariot. He comes to take y'all back into bondage. I said this over and over. I then started to say reprobate minds, hardened hearts, over and over. As it went back and forth from Pharaoh comes riding in his gold chariot to hardened hearts. It went back and forth from one thing to the next. I started to go from West Coast to East Coast to Atlantic. I started to say the deaf spirit is there hiding itself, and they will learn to they will see that the warning I gave them about the West Coast and the Upper East Coast is true. It also came to me that I have been warning about Japan for 2 years now. It's getting closer to happening. I then found myself going out into space where I seen an angel with a white gown on and fire and a fiery energy source. Then came back here where I seen a gate that had another gate within it that was open down in the sea. So it was a gate in the sea. Then as it went down further, there was another gate within that was open, is what I'm trying to say. Nothing but darkness started to come from this. That's when I started to say this. Why do so many have my name on their lips, but they are so far away from me? The end of this was the end of this prayer. But my morning started out seeking Father Abba to have a better understanding of what Dr. Martin Luther King said in his speech, I've been to the mountaintop. So how did I get here in this when I was here this morning? How did I get to this point in this prayer when this morning I was seeking him for answers? So that's what I was trying to understand, because I went seeking God for answers to a profound speech, profound man. Even the time frame that he did it in was profound, and how things is lining up. This whole speech, and I ain't even got, as Bishop T.D.J. said, down to the crust of it, and I'm not him. But it's things that he say that I understand, things that Freddie Haynes say that I understand now, Pastor Curtis I. Grant, and these different men and women of God that I listen to, that I try to learn from. It's things they say I start to understand. And I'm just within the first few paragraphs or verses of this speech. And I'm looking at what he's saying with how the numbers lining up and everything, That's why I say certain things that happen in time. You know what I mean? If we pay attention to the men and women that God are using to speak these prophetic utterance and prophecies to us, because it was prophetic. Wasn't just no ordinary speech. And like I say, just the title of itself, he said, I've been to the mountaintop. And for Mount Zion to have the same exact numbers in it, they got to do with him. I'm talking about with him. The same exact numbers. 21, got the 8 and got the 11. You find all them numbers in Mount Zion. I'm going to try my best to have it finished by next week. If not by next week, at least by the end of this month. But It's something that people really should read, because he speaks about seeing God doing a great thing in the 20th century with the men then. What happened is a question we got to ask. Because we seen great things come from out of that. Great things. And then everything went downhill. Why? We got to answer that question. We got to ask why. We got to start stopping and thinking. We always talk about the Europeans this and the Europeans that. But we got to talk about this too. There's no way in the world they could have conquered Africa in the way that they did if they didn't have help from African people. They didn't know the landscape that good. So stop blaming them for everything. Some of our people helped them. Then we got to talk about the other thing that some of our other ancestors did back then. When God was speaking to them, giving them warnings too that they didn't heed. He's giving us the same warning. I can show y'all where John Conyers is tied right into this message. His retirement at the age of 88 has been a warning. And I've been hollering this out ever since he retired. When he retired, I seen the date and I seen the age that I've been hollering it out ever since. It's connected to all of this. I'm talking about I can literally show y'all. And there's no way that I can take and make this up or nobody else. And if people are taking and making this up, then that means that we're in more trouble. That means that the devil is at work in an even bigger way than what we even seeing. So that means that we can't look at this in the regular, in the natural realm. We got to see this in the spirit realm. What all did God show Dr. Martin Luther King for him to get that speech? Because there's a lot of stuff in there that if you really, really pay attention to it, that man was he was speaking from a whole nother realm. He was saying what he was saying down here, but he was speaking about greatness and other things. Speaking about how we are here in the promised land, but we not reaping, we not subduing and having dominion over it. I know, Lord, I can't help this. But man questioning what happened one generation after him. Talking about my generation. Start going down here. Talking about my generation. And yes, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I don't like what's going on between my European ancestors, because I got European in me, and my African ancestors. I don't. But it's something else that Martin Luther King said in that letter. If we can grab hold of this, I can show y'all another link. He said a 9-year-old girl, out of all the letters that he received, the one that stuck out to him was a 9-year-old European girl. He used the word white. I'm using European. Okay? He said that was the one that stuck out of him. And the young babe, and God says this too in the Bible, or it says in the Bible, he said, out of the mouth of babes. And listen to what the young girl said in the speech. She said, Dr. Martin Luther King, I'm glad that you didn't sneeze. The girl said that. A child don't know evil unless we teach it to him. We got to get this bitterness out of our hearts, y'all. It's keeping us from possessing the promise. I feel it in so many people of African descent. So many. We got to stop. And we got to stop hating on one another. Got to stop being envious of one another. We got to stop all that, man. Because this straight up, it's crazy, man. Selfishness, envious. Why? Why are we hating on one another? That's the opposite of that speech. That man is telling us what God is wanting to do in us. And when we was taking and doing that, look at that, look at the advances that our people started to make it. And soon we got a little money. We start looking down on one another. I said I'm going to try to finish it, but pay attention to one part. 9-year-old girl of a different culture, not a different race, because there's only one race. And I can show you where that 9-year-old little girl leaks up to 2 more 9-year-old little boys that's linked to this message. 3 times 9 is 27. I can show you where the 27 lines right up with this year. I know a lot of things that I do have to do with numbers, but numbers are linked to everything in one way or another, just like words. Listen to that speech, read it, and listen to it. You know, it's still speaking right now, today, even more than it was back then. And the numbers are hollering at us. For this to show up like this 50 years later in the year of Jubilee, it's the year of Jubilee. And for me to find some of the same numbers in here that I'm finding in other things, that would Billy Graham home. You know, and it's passing. This with the NFL Super Bowl game. This with the National Basketball Championship. All these numbers. Linking right up to this message and other stuff. I hope we wake up, y'all. I do. Truly do. You know. Have a blessed day. Love y'all. Okay. Okay, Lord, how we do this? Y'all gonna receive this message. Okay, Lord.